better. I'd like to remind you not to have your cell phones on, and please, no picture taking during our performance. Thank you very much. This play is called Our Town. It was written by Thornton Wilder, produced by the Leawood Stage Company, directed by Art Suska. In it you will see Mr. Whalen, Mr. Palmer, Mr. Galladay, Miss Reams, Miss Hickok, and Miss Hayes, and many others, too numerous to mention. The name of our town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just over the line from Massachusetts. 42 degrees latitude, 40 degrees, longitude 70 degrees, 37 minutes. Well, let me show you how our town lies. First, I wanted to say that the morning star always gets wonderful bright just before it has to go. Now, up here is Main Street. Cutting across over there on the left are the railroad tracks. Across the tracks is Polish Town. You know, foreign people who come to work in the mills. A couple of Canuck families in the Catholic Church. Over here is the Congregational Church. Presbyterians across the street. This is the Methodist and Unitarian Church. Baptist Church is down in the hollow by the river. Next to the post office, there is the town hall. Jail's in the basement. Brown once made a speech from those steps over there. Now, along Main Street, there's a row of stores, hitching posts and horse blocks in front of them. First automobile's going to come along in about 5 years. Belonged to Banker Cartwright, our town's richest citizen. Lives up in that big white house up there on the hill. Here is the grocery store and Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Most everybody in town manages to look in these stores at least once a day. Oh, this is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. And this is the back door. Here are a couple of trellises for those of you who feel you had to have scenery. This is Mrs. Gibbs' garden. Corn, peas, beans, hollyhocks, heliotrope, and a lot of burdock. In those days, our newspapers came out twice a week. And this is Edgar Webb's house. This is Mrs. Gibbs' garden. Just the same as Mrs. Gibbs, only it's got a lot of sunflowers in it too. Now, right here is a big butternut tree. Nice town, you know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable ever came out of it as far as we know. The earliest dates on the tombstone up there in the cemetery say 1670. There's Grovers and Cartwrights and Gibbs and Herseys. Same names as around here now. Well, like I said, it's early morning. The only lights on in town are in a cottage over by the tracks where a Polish mother has just had twins, and in the Joe Crowd house where Joe Jr.'s getting ready to deliver the morning paper, and in the depot where Shorty Hawkins is getting ready to signal the 5:45 for Boston. Woo! Woo! There she is. Naturally, out in the country all around, they've been lights on for some time, what with milking and so on, but town folks sleep late. So another day's begun. There's Doc Gibbs coming down Main Street now, coming back from that baby case, and here's his wife coming down to get breakfast. Doc Gibbs died in 1930. New hospital's named after him. Mrs. Gibbs died a long time ago, in fact. She went out to visit her daughter, Rebecca, who married an insurance man from Canton, Ohio, and died there, pneumonia. But her body was brought back here. She's up there in the cemetery now, along with a whole mess of Gibbses and Herseys. She was Julia Hersey before she married Dr. Gibbs over there in the Congregational Church. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. And there's Mrs. Webb coming down to get her breakfast too. Now, that's Doc Gibbs. Got the call to go to Polish Town at 1:30 this morning. And there's Joe Crowd delivering Mr. Webb's Sentinel.
Morning, Doc.
Good morning, Joe.
Want your paper now?
Yes, I'll take it.
Anybody been sick, Doc?
Oh, a couple twins over in Polish Town. I declare. See here, Joe, your teacher, Miss Foster's going to get married.
Yes, sir. Spell her over in Concord.
I declare. How do you fellas feel about that?
Well, of course, it ain't none of my business. But I think that when a person starts out to be a teacher, she ought to stay one.
How's your knee, Joe?
Fine, Doc. I never think about it. Only like you said, it always tells me when it's gonna rain.
What's it going to do today? Going to rain?
No, sir.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Knee ever make a mistake?
No, sir.
I want to tell you something about that boy Joe Crowd there. Joe was awful bright. Graduated from the high school here ahead of his class. So he got a scholarship to Boston MIT, that is. Graduated ahead of his class there, too. It was all written up in the Boston papers back then. Going to be a great engineer, Joe was, but the war broke out and he died in France. Yes, sir, all that education for nothing. What business he had picking a quarrel with the Germans, we can't make out to this day. But it was perfectly clear to us back then.
Giddy up, Bessie. What's the matter with you?
Here's Howie Newsom delivering the milk.
Morning, Doc.
Oh, morning, Hal.
Is somebody sick?
A couple twins down at Miss Skorslowski's.
Twins, eh? This town's getting big every year.
So what do you think, Hal? Ain't going to rain today?
No. Fine day. It'll burn through. Come on, Bessie.
Well, hello, Bessie. How old is she, Hal?
Going on 17. Bessie's all mixed up about the route ever since the Lockhart stopped taking their quart of milk every day. She wants to leave them quart just the same. Keeps scolding me the whole trip.
Morning, Howie.
Morning, Mrs. Gibbs. Doc's just coming down the street.
Is he? Seems like you're late today.
Yeah, something went wrong with the separator. Don't know what it was.
Children!
Howie?
Children, time to get up! George! Rebecca!
Come on, Bessie.
Everything all right, friend?
Yes, I declare. Easy as kittens.
Bacon will be ready in a minute. Sit down and drink your coffee. You can catch a couple hours sleep this morning, can't you?
Mrs. Wentworth's coming over at 11. I get the feeling I know what it's about, too. Her stomach ain't what it ought to be.
All told, you won't get more than 3 hours of sleep. Frank Gibbs, I don't know what's going to become of you. I do wish you could go away somewhere and take a rest. I think it'd do you good.
Emily, time to get up. Wally, 7 o'clock.
I declare you've got to speak to George. Seems like something's come over him lately. He's no help to me at all. I can't even get him to cut me some wood.
Well, is he sassy to you?
No, he just whines. All he thinks about is that baseball. George! Rebecca! You'll be late for school!
George!
George!
George! Look sharp! Do as your mother tells you. Well, I guess I'll go on upstairs and take 40 winks.
Wally, you'll be late for school.
Mom, what dress shall I wear?
Don't make a noise. Your father's been out all night and needs his sleep. I washed and ironed the blue gingham for you, special.
Oh, Mom, I hate that dress.
Oh, hush.
Every day I go to school dressed like a sick turkey.
Now, Rebecca, you always look very nice.
Mama, George is going so bad at me.
I'll come up there and slap the both of you. That's what I'll do.
We got a mill in our town, too. Hear it? Makes blankets. Cartwrights own it, and it's run them a fortune.
Children, now I won't have it. I won't have you gobbling like wolves. It'll stunt your growth, that's a fact. Wally, put away your book.
Oh, Mom, I can't tell you guys all about Canada.
You know the rule as well as I do. No books at table. As for me, I'd rather have my children healthy than bright.
I'm old, Mama, you know I am. I'm the rice grown school for my age. I have a wonderful memory.
Eat your breakfast.
I'll speak to your father about it after he's had some rest. Seems to me 25 cents a week's enough for a boy of your age. I declare I don't know how you spend it all.
Oh, Ma, I got a lot of things to buy.
Oh, Mary Foxface, that's what you spend it on.
Well, I don't see how Rebecca comes to have so much money. She has more than a dollar.
I've been shaving it up gradual.
Well, dear, I think it's a good thing to spend some every now and then.
Mama, do you know what I love most in the world? Do you? Money.
Eat your
That's the bell. I gotta go.
Now walk fast, but you don't have to run. Wally, pull up your pants at the knee.
Tell Miss Foster I send her my best congratulations. Can you remember that? Now, Rebecca, you look real nice. Pick up your feet. Here, chick, chick, chick. Here, chick, chick. No, you get away. Here, chick, chick. What's the matter with you? Bite, bite, bite. That's all you do. Don't be scared. Nobody's gonna hurt you. Morning, Mary. How's your cold?
Well, I still get that tickling feeling in my throat.
Hmm.
Told Charles I didn't know as I go to choir rehearsal tonight.
Have you tried singing over your voice?
Yes, but I can't do that and stay on the key.
Hmm.
While I'm arresting myself, I thought I'd string some of these beans.
Oh, let me help you. Beans been good this year.
Yep. Decided to put up 40 quarts if it kills me. Children say they hate them, but I noticed they're able to get them down all winter.
Myrtle, I'd like to tell you something. Because if I don't tell somebody, I'll burst.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
Myrtle, did one of those second-hand furniture men from Boston come and see you last Friday?
No.
Well, he called on me. First, I thought it was a patient coming to see Dr. Gibbs, and he wormed his way into my collar, and Myrtle Webb, he offered me $350 for Grandmother Wentworth's highboy as I'm sick.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
He did. And that thing, I was so big I didn't know where to put it, and I almost gave it to Cousin Hester Wilcox.
You're going to take it, aren't you?
I don't know.
You don't know. $350. What's come over you?
Well, if I could get the doctor to take the money and go away on a trip somewhere, I'd take it like that. You know, Myrtle, it's been the dream of my life to see Paris, France. I don't know. It's crazy, I suppose. No, you know how he is. I haven't heard a serious word out of him since the day I've known him. No, he says it might make him discontent with Grover's Corners to go traipsing about Europe. Better leave well enough alone, he says. Every 2 years he makes a trip to the battlefields of the Civil War, and that's enough treat for anybody, he says.
Mr. Webb just admires the way Dr. Gibbs knows everything about the Civil War. Mr. Webb's a good mind to give up Napoleon and move over to the Civil War. Only Dr. Gibbs, being one of the greatest experts in the country, just makes him despair.
That's a fact. Dr. Gibbs is never so happy as when he's at Antietam or Gettysburg. Antietam or Gettysburg. The
Well,
times I traced over those fields, Myrtle, stopping at every bush and pasting it all out like we was going to buy it.
Well, if that second-hand man's really serious about buying it, Julia, you sell it. And then you get to see Paris all right. Just keep dropping hints from time to time. That's how I got to see the Atlantic Ocean, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry I brought it up. Only it seems to me, once in your life before you die, you ought to see a place where they don't talk in English and they don't even want to.
Thank you very much, ladies. Now we'll skip a few hours, but first we want a little more information about our town here. Sort of a scientific account, you might say. So I've asked Professor Willard of our state university to sketch in a few details about our past history here. Professor Willard? May I introduce Professor Willard of our state university? Just a few brief notes, if you don't mind, Professor. Unfortunately, our time is limited.
Grover's Corners. Let me see. Grover's Corners lies on the old Pliocene run into the Appalachian Range. I may say it's some of the oldest land in the world. We're very proud of that here. Of course, there's some more recent outcroppings. Sandstone showing through a shelf of Devonian basalt. And some vestiges of Mesozoic shale. But of course, these are comparatively new. Perhaps 200 or 300 million years. Some highly interesting fossils have been found. I may say unique fossils. 2 miles north of the Peckham Farm, in Silas Peckham's cow pasture. These may be seen in the museum at the university at any time. That is, at any reasonable time. Shall I read some of Professor Gruber's notes on the meteorological situation? Mean precipitation, etc.?
I'm afraid we won't have time for that, Professor. We might have a few words on the history of man here, you know.
Anthropological data.
Yes.
Oh, early Amerindian stock. Totohachi tribes. No evidence before the 10th century of this era. Now entirely disappeared. Oh, possible traces in 3 families. Migration in early 17th century of English brachiocephalic blue-eyed stock. Since then, some Slav and Mediterranean.
And the population, Professor?
Within the town limits, 2,640.
Just a moment, Professor.
The Polish War. Oh, yes. The population at the moment is 2,642. The postal district brings in 507 more, making a total of 3,149. Mortality, birth rates constant, according to the McPherson gauge, 6.032. But
thank you very much, Professor. I know we're all very much obliged to you for that.
Not at all, sir, not at all.
Thank you. And now, for the political and social report, Editor Webb. Oh, Webb is the publisher and editor of the Grover's Corner Sentinel. That's our local paper, you know.
Well, I don't have to tell you that we're run here by a board of selectmen. All males vote at the age of 21. Women vote indirect. We're more middle class, sprinkling of professional men, 10% illiterate laborers. Politically, we're 86% Republican, 6% Democrat, 4% Socialist, rest indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestant, 12% Catholic, rest indifferent.
Have you any comments, Mr. Webb?
Very ordinary town if you ask me. A little better behaved than most, probably a lot duller. But our young people seem to like it here well enough. 90% of them graduating from high school settle down and live right here, even after they've been away to college.
Now, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to ask Editor Webb any questions about our town?
Is there much drinking at Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, I wouldn't know what you'd call much. Saturday night, the farmhands gather down to the other, stable and holler some. We have 1 or 2 town drunks. They're always having remorses every time an evangelist comes to town. No, ma'am. I'd say liquor ain't a regular thing in the homes here. Except in the medicine chest. Right good for snake bite, Always was.
Is there no one in town?
Come forward, would you please, so we can all hear you. Now, what was it you wanted to ask?
Is there no one in town aware of social injustice and industrial inequality?
Oh, yes, they all are. Something terrible. Seems they spend most of their time talking about who's rich and who's poor.
Then why don't they do something about it?
I don't know. Guess we're all hunting like everybody else to find a way to send the sensible and diligent to the top and the lazy and quarrelsome to the bottom. But it ain't easy to find. Meantime, we do all we can to take care of those who can't help themselves. And those who can, we leave alone. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Webb,
Yes, ma'am?
is there any culture or love of beauty in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, there ain't much. Well, not in the sense you mean. Come to think of it, there are a couple girls that play piano at the high school commencement, but they ain't happy about it. No, ma'am, there isn't much culture here. But maybe this is the place to tell you that we have a lot of pleasures of a kind. We're like the sun coming up over the mountain in the morning. And we notice a good deal about the birds, pay a lot of attention to them, and the plants and the trees. And we like to watch the change of the seasons. We all know about that. But those other things, you're right, ma'am, there ain't much. Robinson Crusoe in the Bible, and Handel's Largo, we all know that. And Whistler's Mother, that's about as far as we go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Webb. Now we'll go back to the town. It's 2 o'clock. All 2,642 have had their lunches and all the dishes have been washed. The children are back in school. There's a buzzing and humming coming from the school. Only a few buggies on Main Street. Horses are dozing in the hitching post. There's an early afternoon calm about the town. You all remember what it's like. Doc Gibbs is there in his office tapping people and making them say ah. Mr. Webb's cutting his lawn over there. One man in 10 considers it a privilege to push his own lawnmower.
Emily, why don't you come and have this? I gotta go home, I promise.
Emily, walk simply. Who do you think you are today?
Oh, Papa, you're terrible. 1 minute you tell me to stand up straight, the next you call me names. I just don't listen to you.
Golly, never got a kiss from such a grand lady before.
Oh, excuse me, Mrs. Forrest.
You go out and play in the fields, young man. You got no business playing baseball on Main Street.
Awfully sorry, Mrs. Forrest.
could maybe talk about Louisiana Purchase instead. I worked an awful long time on both of them.
You know, Emily, but it's funny. I can just see your head at night through my window up there when you're doing your homework over in your room.
Well, can you?
You certainly do stick to it. I don't see how you can sit still that long. Guess you must like school.
Well, I figure something a person has to go through.
Yeah.
I don't mind, really. Passes the time.
Yeah. Emily, what do you say we might work out a sort of telegraph from your window to mine? Every once in a while, you can give me a hint or two about one of those algebra problems. Oh, I don't mean the answers, Emily, of course not. Some little hints.
Oh, I think hints are allowed. So, George, if you get stuck, you whistle to me and I'll give you some hints.
You're just naturally bright, I guess.
I figure it's just the way a person's born.
Yeah, but you see, I want to be a farmer. And my Uncle Luke says when I'm not ready, I can go and work on his farm. I'm any good at it. I gradually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah. Well, to get back to the baseball field, Emily. Thanks for the talk. Good afternoon, Mrs. Webb.
Good afternoon, George.
So long, Emily.
Long, George.
Emily, come and help me string these beans for the winter. Well, George Gibbs let himself have a real conversation, didn't he? Why, he's growing up. How old will George be?
Well, I don't know.
Let's see. He must be almost 16.
Mama, I made a speech in class today and I was very good.
You must recite to your father at supper. What was it about?
The Louisiana Purchase. It was like silk off a spool.
I'm going to make speeches all my life. Mama, are these big enough?
Try and get them a little bigger if you can.
Mama, will you answer me a question? Serious.
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously. Will you?
Of course I will.
Mama, am I good looking?
Yes, of course you are. Both my children got good features. I'd be ashamed if they hadn't.
Oh, Mama, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, am I pretty?
I've already told you yes. Now that's enough of that. You've a nice young pretty face. I never heard of such foolishness.
Oh, Mama, you never tell us the truth about anything.
I am telling you the truth.
Mama, were you pretty?
Yes, I was, if I do say it. I was the prettiest girl in town next to Mamie Cartwright.
But Mama, you've got to say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get anybody, to get people interested in me?
Emily, you make me tired. Now stop it. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes. Come along now and bring that bowl with you.
Mama, you're no help at all.
Now I think this is a good time to tell you that the Cartwright interests have begun building a new bank in Grover's Corners. Had to go to Vermont for the marbles, sorry to say, and they've asked a friend of mine what they should put in the cornerstone for people to dig up 1,000 years from now. Of course, they put in a copy of the New York Times and a copy of Mr. Webb's Sentinel. We're kind of interested in that because some scientific fellows have found a way of painting all that reading matter so that you can keep 1,000 or 2,000 years. We're putting in a copy of the Bible. We're putting in a copy of the Constitution of the United States and a copy of William Shakespeare's plays. What do you say, folks? What do you think? You know, Babylon once had 2 million people in it, and all we know about them is the names of the kings and some copies of the wheat contracts and the sales of the slaves. Every night, all those families sat down to supper. The father came home from his work, and the smoke went up the chimney, just like here. And even in Greece and Rome, all we know about the real life as a people is what we can piece together out of their joking poems and the comedies that they wrote for the theater back then. So, I'm going to have a copy of this play put in the cornerstone So people 1,000 years from now will know a few simple facts about us. More than the Treaty of Versailles or the Lindbergh flight. See what I mean? So people 1,000 years from now, this is the way we were in the beginning of the 20th century. This is the way we were in our growing up, in our marrying, in our living, and in our dying. It's evening. You can hear the choir practicing over at the Congregational Church. All the students are at home doing their studies. The day's running down like a tired clock.
Okay, let's try it again. And remember, ladies, music came into the world to bring pleasure. Let's try it again. Softer! Come on, folks, get it out of your head. The music's only good when it's loud. You leave loudness to the Methodists. You couldn't beat them even if you wanted to. Come on, try it again. Tenors. This is better. But that ain't no miracle. Alright, before I forget it, how many of you will be able to come in on Tuesday afternoon to be able to sing at Fred Hersey's wedding? Show me your hands. Alright, that's good. That'll be right nice. Okay, once again now. Art thou weary? Art thou languid? It's a question, ladies and gentlemen. Make it talk.
George, could you come down a minute?
Yes, Paul.
And on Sunday afternoon, remember, take the second verse real quiet and sort of die out at the end. Yeah? Ready?
Get yourself comfortable. Only keep you a minute. George. Oh.
Me? I'm 16, almost 17, Paul.
And what do you want to do when school's over?
Well, you know, Paul. I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
You'll be willing, will you, to get up early and milk and feed the stock? And you'll be able to hoe and hay all day?
Why, sure I will. Why do you ask?
Well, George, today I was in my office and I heard a funny sound. What do you think it was? It was your mother chopping wood. There you see mother, getting up early, fixing meals all day long, washing and ironing, and still she has to go out in the backyard and chop wood. I guess she just got tired of asking you. I suppose she just decided to do it by herself. That would be easier. Yet you eat her meals and you put on the clothes she keeps nice for you, and you run off and play baseball. Like she's some kind of hired girl we keep around the house but don't like very much. You know, all I had to do was bring it to your attention. Here's an answer, son. George, the reason you're spending money 25 cents a week. Not for chopping wood, because that's the kind of present you give your mother, but because you're getting older. And I imagine there are a lot of things you must be able to find and do.
Thanks, Paul.
Let's see, tomorrow's payday. You can count on it. Rebecca will feel like she ought to have some more too, I reckon. I wonder what happened to your mother. Choir practice was never this late before.
It's only 8:30, Paul.
I don't know why she's in that old choir anyway. She hasn't got any more voice than an old crow, traipsing around the streets this hour of the night. About time you retired, don't you think?
Yes, Paul.
Good night, Martha. Good night, Mr. Foster. I'll tell Mr. Webb. I know he'll want to put it in the paper.
It's late.
Good night, Irma.
Real nice choir practice, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Word, Webb, look at that moon. Day to weather for sure.
Well, naturally, I didn't want to say a word about this in front of those others, but now we're alone. It's just the worst scandal that ever was in this town.
What?
Simon Stimson.
Now, Luella.
But Julia, to have the choir master of the church drink and drunk year after year.
Luella.
Julia, you know he was drunk tonight.
Now, Luella, we all know about Mr. Stimson, and we all know about his problems. We all know about the troubles he's been through, and Dr. Ferguson knows it too. And if Dr. Ferguson keeps him on there at his job, then the only thing the rest of us can do is not to notice.
Not to notice it, but it's getting worse.
No, it isn't, Luella. It's getting better. I've been in that choir twice as long as you have, and it doesn't happen anywhere near so often. My, I hate to go to bed on a night like this. Gracious, I'd better hurry. Those children will be sitting up till all hours. Good night, Luella. Julia.
Good night, Myrtle. Can you get home safe, Luella?
Oh, sure, it's bright as day. I can see Mr. Soames scowling at the windows right now. You think we've been to a dance the way those men folk carry on. Good night, Julia.
Good night, Luella.
See you Sunday.
See you then. Well, we had a real good time.
Or late enough.
Oh, it ain't later than usual, Frank.
You're out gossiping at the corner with a lot of hens.
Oh, Frank, don't be grouchy. Come on out in the moonlight and smell my heliotrope. Come on. Come on. Isn't that wonderful? What'd you do all the time I was away?
Oh, I read, as usual. So what were the girls gossiping about tonight?
Well, believe me, Frank, there's something to gossip about.
Simon Stimson's far gone, was he?
Worst I'd ever seen him. How'd that end, Frank? Dr. Ferguson can't keep forgiving him forever.
Suppose I know more about Simon Stimson than anyone in this town. Some Some people just ain't made for small town life. I don't know how that'll end, but it's best we just leave it alone. Now, come on, get in.
No, not yet. Frank, I'm worried about you.
Well, what are you worried about?
I think it is my duty to see that you get a real rest and change. And if I get that legacy, I'm going to insist on it.
Come on. It's getting late. Before you know it, you'll catch a cold.
Frank, you're just unreasonable.
I gave George a piece of my mind tonight. I reckon you'll have the wood chopped, at least for a while anyway. No. I'll start getting upstairs.
Here, it's always so many things to pick up around here, it seems like. You know, Frank, Mrs. Fairchild locks her front door every night. All those people up that part of town do.
They're getting city-fied. That's the trouble with them. They have anything left to burgle, and everybody knows it.
Get out, Rebecca. There's only room for one at this window.
Well, let me look just a minute.
Go use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know what I think? Do you? I think the moon's getting nearer and nearer. There'll be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you don't know anything. If the moon were getting nearer and nearer, the men that stay up all night and watch it with telescopes would see it first, and they'd tell us all about it, and it'd be in all the newspapers.
George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
Well, probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights are out. There's Constable Warren trying a few doors on Main Street. Here comes Edna Webb after putting his newspaper to bed.
Good evening, Bill.
Easy, Mr. Webb.
Quite a moon.
Yep,
All fine tonight?
mostly. Simon Stinson's out rolling around his host wife in I look the other way. There he is now.
Good evening, Simon. Town settled down for the night pretty well. Good evening. Yes, most of the town settled down, Simon. Maybe we'd better do the same. Could I walk along the ways with you? Good night.
I don't know how I put in, Mr. Webb.
Well, he's in a back trouble. One thing after another. Oh, Bill, if you see my boy smoking cigarettes, would you have a word with him? He thinks a lot of it, Bill.
Well, I don't think he smokes no cigarettes, Mr. Webb. I'm more than 2 or 3 a year.
Well, I hope not. Good night, Bill.
Good night, Mr. Webb.
Who's that up there? Myrtle, is that you?
No, it's me, Papa.
Why aren't you in bed?
I don't know. Just can't sleep yet. The moonlight's so wonderful.
That's the end of the first act, folks. You can go out and smoke now, those of you that smoke.
Gonna go smoke?
Okay. It seems to be a little dark on George and the last. You can. It's not a big problem.